we're launching the logo in today's event. I wanted to take some time to share with you the philosophy behind how we came across this logo, right? We didn't just wake up one day and put some nice designs together. A lot of thought went into it because Osagyefo means so much to us, right? So one of the first things we thought about was we wanted something that's very iconic, right? And then that also represented sports on a global level. If you think about all the global sports, there's a certain pattern in terms of how their logos are designed and so on and so forth. Three things that were very key for us, ensuring that the logo had some sports effect or feel to it. It was very global in nature. Secondly, it represented Africa, right? This is us as Africans playing at the world stage and wanting to showcase what we are also capable of, right? And the third item obviously had to represent Osagyefo in one way or the other. And then for the colors, you would notice that for all the flags in Africa, there's quite a number of similarities in terms of our choice of color. The red, gold, green that we have here in Ghana seems to cut across a number of different countries. I suspect, my assumption is because we were one of the first countries to gain independence, everybody then looked up to us and kind of modeled a lot of the colors from there. But you notice that the red, yellow, green, and the black tend to permeate a lot of the African countries. And so we wanted to make sure that we captured the symbol of Africa, the continent, and then these particular colors, right, in there. And then, of course, the most iconic man of all, Osagyefo himself, right? As Mr. Shaban mentioned, he's not just a Ghanaian property, he's for all of us, right? And the South Africans also want to play a part of this. So we wanted to make sure we represented Osagyefo in there. Very iconic. One of his images that's used the most is this particular image of Osagyefo. But when you look and do a research online for just images anywhere, a lot of these ones come up, right? People have done artworks about the man, the greatness of him, and then of course being the first president of our dear country, tying that into the Black Stars. One of the most popular, I guess, monuments of Osagyefo happens to be this one that you see here, currently at the mausoleum, where he's standing and he's frozen, pointing forward, right? I think he had a quote around forward ever, backward never. Right? So with all that put together, essentially how we came across our logo that we have today. Osagyefo will always be a part of it, and the criterion, the logo will always be a part of it. Just in the same way, for every year, we will also try and add a little emphasis to the logo, right? So for this year, this is essentially what we have for 2022, speaking specifically to this year's event. And so a lot of our media presentations and things like that will speak to this year's event. So when you look at the photos, you look at the historical, you know that this is in relation to this specific year, right? Something else I wanted to briefly touch just to emphasize a bit more of what Kojo shared earlier. This was a quote. So one of the things that you've seen on the banners around is one of our taglines, right? And this, which one we chose, is "Dare to Achieve," right? Osagyefo, in one of his speeches, made a declaration and a charge to all of us as Africans, and that's what you have written there, where he says, "Countrymen, the task before us is great indeed, and the heavy is the responsibility, yet the noble and glorious challenge," right? And I think for me, that speaks to so many things. Obviously, it speaks to cycling. It's a great challenge in itself. It speaks to the criteria. This year, we're looking to cover over 100 kilometers again. That in itself is a challenge. But when you think about your everyday life and your personal missions, or even where you work at, and the kind of things that we want to see for Africa, right? We have a great challenge ahead of us. And so just trying to marry all of those things into cycling and into the event, we chose the tagline, at least for this year, to be "Dare to Achieve," because Osagyefo did speak to us feeling that there's no better joy than having the opportunity to dare to make a change, to dare to achieve your wildest ambitions, right? I personally, and I'm sure the chief and some of the other gladiators share this with me, would like the Osagyefo events in a few years' time to just be as top of the mind as, say, the Tour de France is, right? And we believe we can get there, but the responsibility is heavy. So we keep this in mind as we try to be very professional in how we organize these events. Starting off in terms of the date, is going to be on the 21st of September, right? Which happens to be the very same day that, well, it's a holiday here in Ghana, and that's when Osagyefo was born, right? So every year on the 21st of September, we have our event. This year, it's a criterium, it's a one-day event, so it will just be that one day, right? We're looking to cover a distance of 140 kilometers for the participants who will be taking place in this, right? The finish point will be close to the Accra Sports Stadium. We'll give out the route and the actual locations post this, and of course all the people who sign up and register will have a full understanding of what the routes are going to look like. We're doing a few modalities ensuring that it still meets the international criteria, international standards for criteria, especially for this length of a race. This year's fee is the $100, right? Payable in cedis. We want to be compliant with the Bank of Ghana, right? So we take the cedis. Registration will open on the 1st of August and will run for a period of 6 weeks, if my math is correct, to the 9th of September. The 9th of September being the very last Friday before a week before the race itself. We want to allow for that window of time to close off on logistics, but also ensure that those who are participating are well equipped for the race itself. There are a number of new interventions that we're going to introduce, and I'll speak about those in a bit. But one of the key rationale for this is we want to be able to start on time. Last year, one of the challenges we had was how much time it took to get the registration done. And so this year, the registration ends a week before, and no less, right? And it will be purely an online registration. And of course, we invite people to register individually, but also to register as a team if you so will, right? And I think registering as a team would help increase your chances of being able to cross the finish line first, right? So this is a link to our website. We'll have all the information there from the 1st of August so that those who are participating can appreciate what's upcoming. The big deal here is the money. One of the big deals, but I think for me it's not even so much more the money than it is how we're trying to ensure a bit more diversity in this year's race, right? So we have a total pool prize of about $10,000 that we're going to share across the different winners. There are two main categories, the elite men and the elite women, right? This essentially means that these are the two categories for who will participate in the race. In terms of the cash prize, these are the positions for which we will then hand out the amounts. We'll disclose the actual amounts per position as we inch closer towards the day itself, but to know that the first 10 positions will always receive a cash prize, in addition to offers and items from our sponsors. Today, these are the sponsors we have as of the launch, but I'm sure by the time we get to the event itself, we'll have a lot more, right? And so this is what we're looking at in terms of the categories for the two divisions that we'll have for men and for women, right? We'll also outline the number of kilometers for men, which will be the 140, but for the women it will be a little different, right? As we've done in times past, and as seems to be standard as a result of that. So these are the two areas that we want to speak to when it comes to the race, around both the details taking place in September, the distance, and then the finish line, right? Now, speaking of finish line, one of the things that we're looking to introduce this year is to try and automate a bit more, or add a bit more efficiency to how we declare the results. So last year being our very maiden event, we learned a few things, and it took about an hour, I believe, to eventually declare the results. We worked closely with the Cycling Federation to compute the winners and the number of, or the amount of time they took to cross the finish line, did the validations, had it certified, and eventually declared, right? This year, we want to be able to do that in under 30 minutes. Actually, I want to personally do this in under 20 minutes, right? For us to be able to do that, knowing that we're going to have a lot more people participating, we're introducing a few more technologies into the race. And so everybody who registered and pays a week before the race will then be provisioned with some kind of devices on their bicycles to help us track as they're performing on the race, which means that as the last lap comes to an end and everybody crossed the finish line, within our software we'll be able to then see all the participants who crossed the finish line and be able to see it to 1,000th of a second, so to speak, right? It's how accurate this device is. So these are kind of the new innovations that we're trying to bring in here, because if we are playing this as a continental level, we do want to showcase to the world that the organization in itself and the way it's judged is just on the same global level as well, right? This is sample number 1, inspired by one of our very own gladiators. coming in two different color variations, one in white and the other in gold, with the inscriptions of the logo, but also the details of the race itself, right? And so that was option number one. That will also go up for votes. I'll then move on to show option number two, minimalist designed. The key item here is trying to keep a very minimalist design, but also if you look very closely, the green and the red in there are actually portions of the Africa map, right, that are fitted in here. So this is option number two. I will then move on to show option number three, and this is what we have for option number three, right? This is what we're looking at for the criterium. Apologies, we still have a bit of the last year's logo in here, but it will represent the new one once you get it in place, right? So this is what we're looking at for option number three. So these will again be circulated on our website, and through our social media team will then allow for people to vote their preferred ones, and the winning one, I guess the person, the winning jersey will then be chosen and printed and made available on the day of the event, right? All right, so majority of my work is done. I don't like talking as much as someone who says they like talking, and so I will quickly hand over to our chief gladiator to give us any final closing remarks, and then obviously he will also speak to making sure that we have a bit more participation in terms of our sponsors and so on and so forth. So, Mr. Kojo Graham.
Thank you, Charles. I think that I'll take this opportunity one more time to thank all of you who have made it here today. I think so far it's been a very successful event. We've had the opportunity to talk to you about the Gladiator Cycling Club, the GCC, who we are, and then what we do. We've spoken to you about the initiatives from GBB, from Lamisi to the Diva, and also now the Osagyefo Criterium, for which reason we are all here today. And today is just the beginning of the journey of propagating the ideals of Osagyefo, trying to bring unity in Africa through sports. So as we all live here today, we should spread the message, share the message, discuss the ideals that Osagyefo stands for, and these is even more critical in these times. In Ghana, we are facing a lot of economic and financial hardship, and the issue of African economic unity one more time comes to the forefront. I had the opportunity to mention earlier that even today, countries in Africa, including Ghana, are promoting the benefits of the African Trade Agreement, which has been signed with the primary objective of promoting economic integration in Africa. So, as Osagyefo himself said, Osagyefo never dies. He lives forever. And that is reflected in what we are doing here today. So, in specific response to what our director technical said, I think we've discussed the idea amongst ourselves at different points in time for us to try to elevate the game beyond the criterium, and then to look for a 2 or 3 day event that would also reflect. So I think that is in good gist, and we'll discuss that. It will really be a good idea to have a 3-day Osagyefo tour from Accra to Nzima, where Osagyefo was born. So we've been discussing different formats, but I think the director of technical for the Federation has given enough flesh to the idea for us to take it up to the next level. So we'll be working on that. And before I end, the issue of female participation in cycle, I think for the Federation has been a very challenging issue. So one more time, we take the opportunity to encourage you, and to not only, for those of you, cycling is not, it's an ageless activity. I'm 60 years myself, almost getting to 61, but I still manage to turn myself around very well. With the young guys, at times I give them a good run for their money. So we are saying that there's life, energy, and spirit in cycling. And so I think that for those of you who haven't had the experience of cycling, it's never too late. We spoke earlier about the challenges of vehicular interaction and the risk. And we did mention that the University of Ghana has become a safe haven for cycling because there you don't have enough cars, the environment is very good. And so it's a time for us to elevate our game and then keep fit. You know, I don't have much more to say than to thank all of you for coming here today, taking time off your busy schedule to come and share the ideals of Osagyefo and also the essence of cycling, both as a recreational activity, as a means for social integration, where all of us, from lawyers, engineers, doctors, mechanics, from all walks of life, we interact. And once we meet and we get on our bikes, we are all classless. We just have a common synergy, which is to ride, protect each other, enjoy ourselves, and then come back. So this is what it's all about. We try to elevate our game every year on and on to ensure that we do what we are doing better and better. I thank you all for coming. God bless the GCC and God bless us all. Thank you very much.